各位听众午安。那我们今天邀请到大哥 Sato 来为我们讲解到这个锻炼核心肌群很重要，你练对了吗？有关于核心肌群的主题。那主讲者是大哥 Sato，那我是今天的翻译员，我叫 Felix。好，那我们欢迎大哥 Sato。
All right, thank you. So today it's kind of interesting topic talking about the core training. I know even the general population very interested in core training topic, but the real question that I have for the audience is, do we really know enough about the core training?
好，今天的讲解的主题呢是讲说核心训练的部分。那我相信很多人呢，甚至一般人呢，都对核心训练很有兴趣。那究竟核心训练我们要怎么做训练呢？或是它的重点是什么？待会会有大特少来为我们讲解。
So the reason why I bring this topic up is this is a really long time ago. I'm talking about 15, 16 years ago when I was a graduate student. One of my research topic was about the effects of core training because back then it was very popular starting out to let athletes train core more than ever. And then, even nowadays, people are still talking about it. So I know it's a big trend, long trend to talk about the core training.
OK， 那这个主题呢是大家知道很久以前就很感兴趣的，差不多在15、16年前，就有很多的运动员呢，那在训练核心。那即使到今日呢，不止运动员，连我们的一般民众呢，大部分人都在训练核心。那就会做一个比较深入的讲解，这样子。
So let's talk about let's go to the slide and then talk about the function of core muscles first.
OK， 那我们第一个讲的呢，会是说，每个核心的肌肉呢，它的功用是什么？
When we're talking about the core muscle, I'm not talking about learning the name of the muscle. I'm talking about the function of those core muscles.
好，所以当我们讲到核心肌肉的时候呢，重点我们不会放在说到底是核心肌肉有哪些名称啊，或是哪里是核心肌肉，而是重点我们会摆在它的功用是什么，或者它做什么事情才是我们的重点。
So I'm gonna kind of demonstrate here, talking about the anterior portion. We're connecting the muscle from the crossing over this way. So you can see it on the slide that you're actually connecting those muscle in a cross area. Yeah.
所以从正面看呢，看我们的躯干的位置的时候，它其实是就像 PPT 上面的，它是一个交叉的形状，它是像一个 X 型一样，是一个交叉的连结的功用。
And then from the side view, I'm connecting the back muscle and then the anterior muscle to engage to tighten up.
好，如果从侧面看的话呢，就会是后背的肌肉跟我们前面的肌肉呢，做一个紧绷、紧张的状态呢，然后来帮助我们做一个稳定结合的功用。
And then you can see from the back side, you're connecting the back side, right, from the lower back to your glutes muscle, also from the cross area.
好，如果从后面看的话呢，一样是一个交叉的形状，那是从我们下背，然后交叉到我们对侧的那个臀大肌的位置，那也是一样是一个 X 型，一个交叉的形状在做事情。
Okay, so let's go to the next slide, talking about the core muscles. Okay, people really believe that the core muscle, especially if you have a very strong core muscle, it leads to better sports performance or prevent those injuries.
好，那这一页讲到的是呢，我们这个核心肌肉的强度、强壮、肌力的状况呢，很多人会相信说，我们有强壮的核心，很好的核心肌力，那就代表它会有更好的运动表现，甚至是我们减少受伤的机会。
The real question is it really true? Because I've seen both. Okay, I've seen people with really good core strengths, but they're really bad at the sports performance, or people with really weak core but a very good sports performance. Okay, so is it really true to be able to play sports better or prevent those injuries?
好，但是事实上真的是这样的吗？ 那博士在这边看到两个状况，一个是他有很强壮的核心肌肉，但是他不是一个很好的运动表现的状态。另一个状况呢是他有很好的运动表现，可是他的核心的肌力呢是很差的。那所以真相到底是怎么样呢？那我们待会会一一的做一个解析。
So what I have on the next slide is talking about what we know from our sense to what the science is showing. So I want to compare what we know to what the science is showing.
好，那这一页我们会讲解到，那我们现在知道的状况，跟实际上在运动科学里面它所呈现出来的数字会是如何，我们会做一个比较。
And what we know, okay, is really fast compared to what the research is showing, meaning that there's a gap between what the science is showing to what we think is going to happen with a strong core.
好，那现在的状况变成说是，我们知道的东西，或是我们认为我们想的东西，跟实际上的这个科学数据所呈现出来的这个速度上来讲，是有一段差距的。等于说我们认为的东西，其实现在认为的东西是很多，但是实际上在这个实验的数据的证据来讲的话，是相对之下是较少的。
So what this means is, just because you have a core stability, okay, that doesn't really mean that your injury risk is higher or lower. Okay, there's no research actually showing this fact.
好，那现在的证据是显示出，应该说是没有证据显示出，如果你的核心肌群很不稳定或很弱，那相较于它就等于说很高的受伤几率。现在是没有一个证据说显示出有这样的关联存在的。
So what we know for now is people believe that the muscle recruitment or strength, okay, muscle strength or postural control, movement pattern, those are the ones that they believe that it's going to affect the sports performance or risk of injury to be lower. But the issue is there's not that many research showing to support that idea.
好，那现在现存的证据是有说你的肌肉的招募的状况，还有第二个是你的肌肉的肌力，再来是第三个是你的姿势上的控制，然后还有你的动作模式。现在是有一些证据显示出这4个东西它会有关于你的运动表现或是你的降低你的运动伤害的部分，但是它也不是说很完全、很完整、很多的证据的出现这样子。
So let's go to the next slide talking about the 2 different examples. Okay, so I have 2 different research showing examples here. The first one is talking about comparing the people with low back pain and the people with a healthy back.
好，那第一个出现的这个文献证据是写说 ，OK， 你的有一个健康的下背的状况，跟有一个下背痛的人的状况来做一个比较。
So this study is showing that there's no difference between those 2 groups for muscle strength, but the difference is the activation sequence. Okay, the people with healthy back, they have a very good activation from inside out, meaning that you have a very good core activation first to be able to move the arm or move the leg.
好，那在这个研究指出呢，你的健康的人跟有下背痛的人的核心的肌力部分，他们2个是差不多的。那差别在哪里呢？差别在他肌肉招募的顺序，他会从如果是一个健康背部的人的状况，他会从里到外来做一个顺序的诱发，也就是说，它会从你的近端到远端到四肢来做发力的部分。
And then the people with the low back pain usually have not very good sequence from inside to out, okay? Meaning that their activation of the core is probably delayed, and then other muscles is going to start to activate first, okay? So those things is the key point that the people have low back pain.
好， 如果有下背痛的状况呢，那通常的状况是这样子，它的招募顺序不对，它通常会从远端招募到近端，也就是说它在发力的时候，它会先从它的四肢在做发力，然后它的核心、它的肌肉、它的启动是比较延迟的，所以这是会造成它下背痛的原因之一。
And then the second study is showing the same thing. People with low back pain, people with a healthy back, they showed muscle strength difference, but not to talk about the core muscle in the abdominal area. It's talking about the glutes muscle. Okay, so the people with a healthy back tend to have a very good glute muscle strength. Okay, from abductors to extensor muscle. So the big glute muscle actually stronger for the healthy back individuals.
好，那第二份研究指出呢，你有一个健康的下背跟有下背痛的状况，这次比较的部分是在于它的臀部肌肉的部分，它就比较说你的臀大肌啊，那臀中肌、臀小肌的部分跟你的髋的内外旋的肌肉的强壮程度来做一个比较。
So I think that this is a very interesting point. So let's say this can be athletes or general population, people who have a low back pain. Usually they're told that, oh, you have to strengthen a muscle. Okay? You have to do crunches. You have to have a good abdominal muscle. Based on this kind of research, it's shown that there's no relationship. Okay? So just by strengthening a core muscle doesn't mean much to prevent the low back pain.
好，那这个地方有趣的事情是，我们可以看到很多的不管是一般民众啊，或是我们的运动员啊等等之类的，他们会练很多的卷腹或者仰卧起坐等等之类的，来去强调说他的腹部的肌力等等之类的。但是在这个文献里面指出的情况是，那重点不是他的肌力，而是他去如何启动他的肌肉，才是去防止有这些疼痛状况的一个优先的情形。
So based on this type of research, it's showing that you have to train not only talking about here to prevent the low back pain, you have to work on your posterior chain. You have to work on the glutes to stabilize so your pelvic stay in one place, right? So it doesn't have that instability from the pelvis to cause low back pain.
OK， 所以在训练的时候呢，并不是只有训练腹部，那还包括你的后侧链的位置，也就是说，要让你的臀部的肌力啊等等之类的，让你的骨盆是呈现在稳定的状况，而不会做一个不稳定的情形，然后来产生下背痛。
Okay, so let's go to the next slide, talking about not all about how strong. Okay, we're talking more about the neuromuscular control, the activation order. Okay, it has to come from the core to activate. Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be strong, but it has to have a very good order to activate those muscles.
好，所以并不是全部的重点都在说强壮这件事情，而是说你要有好的神经肌肉的控制，有好的肌肉的启动的顺序，然后来让它是达到它要的强壮，而不单单只是肌肉的强度。重点在于神经肌肉的控制跟你的启动顺序的部分。
So in my mind, when I think about this, instead of training, instead of choosing exercise to focus on here or focusing on the glutes or focusing on oblique, instead of thinking that way, it's more the sequence pattern from the lower body to upper body, proximal to distal, something like that. More sequential exercise is more beneficial in order to prevent the lower back pain.
好，所以包括这个核心肌群，包括你的腹部啊，或是你的这个腹斜肌啊，甚至你臀部的部分，它都是将是训练的重点。因为重点不将是你只是把它练得很强壮、很有形状，或是可以举起很大的重量而已。重点是在于它的启动顺序。只要启动顺序正确呢，那相信这样可以避免你很多的下背痛的状况。重点在于启动的顺序。
Okay, so let's go to the next slide because this is the part that a lot of people ask me. Okay, so how do we know? How do we know if I have higher risk of low back pain, or how do I know that people have a weak core or strong core? So I kind of put the 3 different ways to do the assessment.
好，那我们在这些下背或者说我们核心肌力的部分，我们要如何去做评估呢？要如何知道说核心的肌力是弱还是强的部分呢？我们这边就有几个评估的方法。
And then I think people who have attended my course have seen those kind of assessment before, but I like doing a lot of static, stationary, static, isometric testing, and then I also like a little bit of dynamic testing. So both have a static and then dynamic pattern.
好，那在做测试的时候，一旦来到这个课程呢，我们会先做一个我们会做静态，也就是等长肌力的测试。那除了等长肌力的测试之外呢，我们会做动态肌力的测试。所以在于等长跟动态的部分呢，我们都会做一个测试。
So another part that I really like to do is I mentioned a little bit about the glutes activation, right? The stronger glutes to support the pelvis. So I like doing the single leg type of assessment too. So single leg and then make sure you can balance yourself.
好，那接下来呢，我们会测试说我们的臀部的强度在哪里。臀部的强度呢，就攸关你的骨盆的稳定的程度。那所以我们会做一些单腿的测试啊，等等之类的。
And there's a good and bad about using an FMS, but the FMS is to assess the pattern. So for that reason, I'm okay of using an FMS to see the pattern. If the people who have a poor pattern, of course that might lead to higher risk of injury. So in order to see the pattern of the movement, activation of the certain muscle, I like the FMS approach as well.
好，那在 FMS 的部分呢，那不是看的重点将会是说它的动作模式。那我们透过这个动作模式的展现，它如何去完成它的动作，那它会去了解说它哪些肌肉是需要启动的，或是它哪些肌肉是没有做事情的。那这是在 FMS 使用的时候，博士喜欢用的是在于它的动作模式的部分。
So the one thing I don't like about the FMS is because people can learn to do it well over time. Okay, so there's a learning effect. So yeah, if you do it too often and then your patient, your client learn how to do well, you look like, oh, this person is getting better. That means it's a lower risk of injury. I don't think that is the case. So I'm using FMS just to check the pattern. I don't use it as a monitoring the person.
好，那在 FMS 使用上呢，博士认为说它这个部分它有一个小地方他不太喜欢，就是说我们的客户或病人他会去学习 FMS 的动作的模式，他学起来之后呢，他就会是变成说他只是在学这个动作，而不是真的解决他实际上的状况。所以这时候呢，博士会看的东西呢，它就仅仅限于它的动作模式而已，他并不会把它当做一个监控的系统、监控的方式。
Okay, so let's go to the next slide, talking about making a list of what to do. Okay, so what kind of stuff is it good in terms of selecting certain exercise?
好，那究竟我们可以去做哪些运动呢？我们要如何去选择这些运动呢？我们将会在这里做一个说明。
So I mentioned that it's not so much about strength only, it's about the coordination, the pattern, right? So the first one I think about the acceleration, deceleration. So something like a medicine ball throw, okay? And then not only throwing the medicine ball, but you catch the medicine ball, that's the deceleration, and then you throw the medicine ball, okay? Throwing action requires the sequence from the leg to core to arm to throw, right? So I kind of like this sequential pattern to choose as an exercise.
好，那在这个部分呢，我们讲到说，核心肌力的部分其实并不是只有它的强度，而是它如何去使用。那像是我们在投掷药球的时候呢，我们就会有分加速度的阶段跟减速度的阶段。像是在接药球的时候就有减速度的阶段，那在抛掷出去的时候就有加速度的阶段。那在加速度的部分呢，我们会希望能看到从下肢脚的部分发力，传递到核心，然后再传递到上肢，最后将药球这个投掷出去的动作，这是我们想要看到的东西。
And then not many people have a medicine ball at home. I have it, but you guys don't have it. So you have to think about what's available at home. So, you can use something like stairs to be able to do step up or step down to control the concentric portion and then the eccentric portion.
好，那其实并不是每个人家里都要求，虽然我们在 Big Force 里面，我们是有要求在做训练的，但是并不是每个人都有。那这时候我们可以做哪些替代呢？我们可以试着用登阶的方式，登阶上跟登阶下来去判断我们向心跟我们离心的时候的动作控制。
So once again, like some of the exercise you have to choose is to be able to transfer the energy. Okay, so that's the important part. Right? So you have to be able to work on the coordination, how to use the leg to transfer to the core, to the upper body, okay? Whether it's the, I mentioned about the medicine ball throw or some dynamic movement of any dumbbell exercise. You can combination, you can do squat to shoulder press, you connect, different movement together.
OK， 那这时候重点呢，我们将会把它着重在传递力量的部分，也就是说，你如何将力量传递出去。那像是我们会做一些深蹲加肩推的动作，或是除了投掷要求之外呢，也有一些其他动作也可以有这个帮助的部分。
And then another part that I really emphasize for core training is to be able to decelerate. Okay, can you actually stop the movement? Okay, we call it anti-rotation exercise. Okay, so we actually do a lot of those exercises with our athletes too, to be able to stop the movement, right? So those are also very important, using a tubing band, okay, using your own body weight to do anti-rotation exercises.
好，那在这核心肌力的部分呢，我们就是强调说它的减速，也就是说你如何让你的动作能够去急停暂停的这个能力在。所以我们会做很多的抗旋转的动作，像是使用我们的弹力绳啊，或者甚至我们使用我们的自身的体重，都可以做很多抗旋转的动作，来做一个减速，来做一个强化核心的部分。
Okay, so let's go through the last part here on what to do list. Okay, this list also really important to emphasize the blue part and then the red part.
好，那在这个部分呢，我们可以看到这里有很多的动作列表。那待会我们会讲解蓝色的部分跟红色的部分。
The reason why I separate into the blue part and then the red part is the blue part is people know this part, doing a plank, right, doing stabilization stuff. But the truth is, those are not very high force activity for concentric and eccentric. These are very easy isometric tasks.
好，那在这为什么会分成蓝色部分跟红色部分呢？在蓝色部分是很多人都知道的，像是棒式啊、侧棒式啊等等之类的。可是它这时候输出的力量呢，就不是高力量的输出了。这时候呢，很多都是静态的等长的这个训练。可是，在我们核心的稳定部分呢，除了等长之外，我们还有向心跟离心的部分，也是我们要注意到的。
So the blue part is more focusing on the stabilization to focus on the isometric act, right? The red part, on the other hand, it's more dynamic, okay? I have the red part here talking about the jumps, a lot of different types of the jump, and then a lot of deceleration, more dynamic action. I think this is the key components, key exercises.
好，那在蓝色的部分呢，很多就是等长静态的这个训练的部分。那在红色的部分呢，就有很多动态的部分，也就是说，你可以让你的身体去更试着去如何去加速跟减速，所以会有很多跳啊等等之类的动作在。
So once again, going back to the idea, what kind of exercise is best, right? It's not so much about the exercise selection, but they're talking about how to sequentially match those exercises. So after you finish your stabilization, you have to challenge yourself with the dynamic action of acceleration and then the deceleration.
好，所以重点不在于动作的训练的选择上面，而是你如何去让你的肌肉有一个正确的顺序。所以当你的身体能够去适应说等长的训练，像是棒式等等之类之后呢，你要去试着挑战自己更多的身体。更多的身体能力，也就会让你的身体能够去加速，能够去减速，像是我们这个列表上这些跳的动作的部分。
So people who have taken my course, and then also some of the athletes I work with, they know this very well from me, that I always have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, so on. I have this exercise progression thinking about from the static stabilization to dynamic stabilization for strengthening the sequence. Not only strengthening the muscle, but strengthening the sequence.
好，那如果到这个我们在训练训练课程的设计上面的时候，我们就会有等级1啊、等级2、等级3、等级4、等级5的这个训练的阶段，也就是说，让你的身体能够越来越被挑战，它是一个渐进式的进展。那所以说，重点就不在说你到底可以练到多壮啊等等之类的，而是重点比较在于说，你如何让你的身体能力被挑战，一个一个照着顺序这样子越来越进阶的状态。
Yeah, so I use most of these type of exercises in a warm-up routine. Okay, I use it for, let's say, level 1, static stabilization. Level 2, a little bit of unstable surface stuff. And then the level 3, talking about more concentric action. Level 4, talking about deceleration. Like that's kind of the progression that you need to do to challenging your body little by little.
好，所以在热身的时候呢，那博士可能就用一个等级1的训练，也就是说只有静态的部分。那再来呢，慢慢的进阶到等级2，它就制造一些不稳定的状态。那等级3的时候呢，它就也许就是让你做一个向心动态的动作开始出现了。在等级4的时候呢，就会让你去练习去如何去减速，也就是急停减速的部分，来这样子一步一步的让你的身体越来越被挑战。
So when you hear, okay, if you do this exercise, you get good core strength. It might be true for very weak people. Okay, very weak people can gain strength no matter what they do. But if you have to train in a progressive manner, you have to do it in a sequential pattern.
OK， 所以当你在训练或是一些比较体能的能力比较弱的人的时候，不管你做什么，其实他都会去慢慢进步。也就是说，你可以训练他的核心的肌力，就让他越来越壮嫩之类的，他的确会慢慢进步。但是当你的运动员或客户他的能力越来越高的时候，你要知道如何去安排一些升阶的动作、进阶的动作，让他的身体能够一步一步的被挑战，让他越来越强壮，体能状况越来越好。
Okay, so let's summarize the idea that based on what I have done from the research perspective on core training, okay, I understand that the people believe that the core strength is important. I believe so too, but the approach have a very high gap between what people believe to what actually works. Okay, so we have to close the gap to know that the sequence of the training is far more important than just purely strengthening those muscles.
好，那在核心肌力的部分呢，当然核心肌力是一个很重要的议题，也是很重要的东西。那但是现在的状况是比较像是，这个人们相信的东西跟实际上要做的东西，它是有一段差距的。所以我们要做的事情是慢慢的弥补这个差距，让你的这个核心训练的这个顺序，或是它的进阶程度一步一步的往上走，这样子。
And then the reason why I can strongly say this kind of stuff, not only because I have done some research, but also I have seen so many strongman people to bodybuilders who have a very big muscle still suffer low back pain. Or different injuries. Okay, so what does that mean to have that strong muscle?
所以为什么博士会这么肯定的说这个东西呢？是因为它不单单只是文献里面呈现出来的，而是他实际上在遇到的这些运动员，包括很强壮、世界上最强壮的男人之类的这些运动项目，或者是健美选手、健美先生这些训练项目呢，他们都有很强壮的身体，或是看起来有6块肌的人之类的，但是他们都有一个同样的议题，就是他们都有下背痛的状况。
And in very near future, the peak force is trying to put those exercises together to provide through online course. Okay, so the people can actually view different type of core exercises, and then you're not only talking about the athletes but also for the general population. I believe it's going to be very beneficial to know different type of core exercises that we can offer to athletes and then also general population.
好，所以在 Peak Force 呢之后会推出一个线上的课程。那这个课程内容就是讲说我们核心的训练的部分。那它不单单只是说给运动员啊或等等之类的，它也包括可以给一般的民众来做使用。也就是说，我们的课程里面它会有很多的进阶啊、退阶啊，你要如何去安排你动作的顺序，以及对你的身体、对你的核心的强壮需要注意些什么，会要怎么样的编排，它会对你有很大的帮助。那它是适合所有的群众来做使用的。
And then I know a lot of people would say, so what kind of exercise, what kind of routine, okay? So I hope to see you guys, those people, in my course. And then I can actually do a lot of hands-on information and then also do it from the conceptual perspective in the lecture courses.
OK， 所以相信很多人会说，那我要做哪些运动啊？我要怎么去编排等等之类的，这些东西都不用担心。但他Sato会在他的课程里面呢，跟你们做说明说，你要怎么做啊，或是你应该要注意哪些事情啊，或是你要看的文献讲义那些什么东西之类的，他都会帮你整理好，让你可以很快的得到资讯，而且你可以自己去使用它。
Okay, as always, if you have any questions, we're happy to answer those questions, and I hope to hear from many audience about the core training.
好，那如果观众们呢有任何的问题呢，都欢迎在底下留言。那Sato会很乐意去回答你们的问题，以及他很希望看到说你们对于核心训练或是核心肌力的加强呢，要如何去加强这些看法，他都很期待你们能够在底下做留言的部分。
Okay, thank you very much, and I'll see you next week with another fantastic topic we're gonna talk about next week.
好，那各位观众，谢谢大家，那我们就下礼拜见喽。那下礼拜一样会有很奇幻的这个我们主题会在podcast 里面呈现。
OK，谢谢，
谢谢 ，Thank you。